This episode of the K-Pop Blast is supposed to be the Wednesday news edition, but it is late, and I think that it is actually a pretty good thing, but I'll explain more coming up right now. What is going on, everybody? My name is Nick from MW Pop, and I want to welcome you back for another episode of the K-Pop Blast. Of course, this, as I said, this is supposed to be the news edition. Now, was supposed to have come out on Wednesday, but life has gotten in the way, and as a result, it did not come out on time. But I do think that it is actually a pretty decent thing considering the topic. So the single story that we're going to be talking about today, this week, I guess you can say, is going to be all about Rap Monster's statements that he made in an interview, I guess you can say, in Australia. Basically, his answer to the question, what was your first impressions of the members, when he said, I think he was talking about V and J-Hope, that he said that they were so black, it makes it hard to see them in the night. When the night gets dark, I cannot see them very well. My thoughts and opinions on that are, dude, you shouldn't have said that. Of course, everyone's opinions or everyone's, thought on that was pretty outrageous. Like that was crazy. Why did you say that? That's insane. Some people were a bit more extreme than others, and as a result, people's extreme thoughts and opinions had other consequences, but we'll talk about that later. Now, I have to say, one, that, looking at this as myself, it's not really, or, looking about it and thinking about the entire situation here, it's not really quite, it's still offensive, I can't say that it's not, but, you have to take into consideration, or the context of it all, is that, one, he's a Korean person who's grown up, I guess, or is, immersed in this Korean culture, which doesn't have the same view on people of different races, ethnicities, and skin colors as themselves. So they definitely have a far different opinion on it than most other people in the world. And of course, this statement definitely does show it, but one of the things that apparently he must have forgotten or was not thinking about at that time was, one, he was in Australia. Two, he's in a K-pop group, which is, definitely distributed far further than just Korea. In fact, K-pop is spread throughout the entire world. BTS especially, of all the groups in K-pop, BTS is one of the groups that has worldwide exposure, and saying something like this has more chance to offend more people than it will not offend. So, I'm just going to say that this is probably, just a lapse in the, withholding of his, general thoughts and all that stuff that he's been, grown up with and conditioned with as, being a part of the whole Korean culture. And, he shouldn't have said it. He thought it was going to be kind of funny, maybe. I don't know, because that's also kind of a joke around with people. You can't say stuff like that. As a celebrity, you can't say stuff like that. And, of course, people had an appropriately, angry reaction. Although some people took it a little too far. And, considering that fact that their tour, the North American tour, was about to start, I believe it was Wednesday was the show. Or was it Thursday? It was I can't remember. Wednesday, Thursday, one of those days was their New York show. The threats and all of that stuff, because of course, naturally, if you're a K-pop fan and you're mad, one of the first things you have to go to as far as an extreme response is you have to send death threats and threaten violence, right? Because if you're not threatening violence, then you're doing it wrong, right? Apparently. But so threats of violence and death threats and stuff like that were being, sent out and posted and stuff like that. And one of the promoters who's putting on the tour posted and said, like, hey guys, look, if you guys are saying things like this and making the company, feel uncomfortable with the situation and the general atmosphere and making them feel like the group is going to be in danger, then they definitely have the right to cancel any sort of, meet and greet and high touch that is planned for the show. And in fact, that is what happened in New York. And in fact, not only was the meet and greet canceled in New York, it was also, I shouldn't say it was also, but it was also initially reported that it was going to be canceled for the entire tour, which turns out that it's not really canceled for the entire tour. Meet and greets and high touch is still on for the rest of the shows. So for those of you who are going to those shows, have no fear. You will get to meet them and high five, do whatever high touch sort of stuff you do. So there is that. I guess that's the one piece of good news that you can bring out of this. The other bad thing that came out of the New York show is that the New York show ended up getting cut short. And everyone believes that the reason why it was canceled was because of one tweet from a certain person whose profile has been deleted. This person tweeted a picture of a handgun, saying like, "Hey, Rap Monster, this one's for you," with the hashtag TRB in New York. And as a result, somebody that was put on the show, whether it was the venue, the concert promoters, or the company itself, they canceled the show. Or they stopped it, I should say, because it was already going. People got to enjoy a whole lot of BTS before it was cut short. But the thing is that it was cut short and they did not get the full experience that they paid for. And there's a video that's been posted on Twitter, of course 30 seconds long, because I think that's as long as a Twitter video can be, where the security person or whoever it is at the venue is, announcing, going through their whole "we're breaking this to you as softly as we can," announcement that the show was going to be canceled. And I can just watching the video, I can feel the whole tension that everybody knew what was about to happen, but they were just praying that it wasn't actually going to happen. And then when they actually announced that it was going to happen, it was, it was, devastating, I guess you can say. I don't really know, because my reaction to that was like, oh shit. And for just like a split second, I felt like I was about to cry. You know the feeling when you're like, I feel like the tears are coming and I'm about to cry? I felt like that for just one split second, because everyone was, audibly, and you could just tell from the entire thing that just everyone was just like heartbroken and disappointed with the entire thing. And it's really a quite upsetting situation. And the reason, again, a reason why that this is a good thing that I haven't recorded this video until now is because if I'd recorded this yesterday or the day that I heard about this, or I guess the day after, whatever day, I would have been fuming. I would have been absolutely mad, and this video would have been quite heated and emotional. But I like to approach things and all that more on a level-headed, rational approach and thought process and all that stuff, as opposed to with the emotional response. So it's a good thing that I've delayed this and got to sort it out and get some control on my thoughts and emotions of this. So overall, I mean, it's just the whole situation there in New York is just absolutely bad. And for the people who went there, I mean, it very well is not really going to be the only time that you will ever get to see BTS play in a show, have a concert, something like that. Because if they ever come back to the United States, you can pretty much guarantee that they will be hitting New York, because New York and LA are the two places that every K-pop group tends to play when they make a show here or when they perform here. But for people elsewhere, like Dallas, they may not actually get to see them perform a show ever again. Maybe I'm being dramatic with the whole like once in a lifetime kind of thing, but it is really kind of is a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. And a lot of people's once in a lifetime New York opportunities were just ruined, and there was a huge dark spot on it because one person decided, I don't know, that they were going to be funny or something like that, and made a very serious threat. And of all of the locations in the world that you want to make a gun threat like that, New York City in the United States of America is not the one that you want to do that, right? Because one, the United States in general is very, very sensitive with these whole shooter situations because they've happened a lot recently, it seems, and they've gained a lot of media attention. So that is one of the big things that people are very, very aware of, and it's shocking and people don't like it. So that's number one. Number two, this is New York City here, which was, this is many, 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 many years ago at this point, but it of course was the site of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and those people definitely, I mean, you can say that you're over it, but with trauma stuff, being traumatized like that, you're not really over it, and instead just the thoughts and the feelings and all that stuff are kind of buried. So, the reaction and all of that stuff from people in New York is gonna be much, much, much more extreme than I could guess you can say anywhere else in the world. The United States is definitely not a place where you want to be threatening these sorts of things, because they will do whatever they can to, one, take proper safety precautions, just, be overly safe, and so that nobody gets hurt, nothing happens, and, it's just in general not going to be a good thing. So, the person that I guess played that joke or whatever it is, because Asian Junkie broke it down pretty good as far as, that person's Twitter account goes, because initially they were like, bam, here we go. This is my gun threat. And then they're like, oh my God, it was just a joke, guys. I'm sorry. And then they went from, oh my God, it was just a joke, to I was hacked, so that was not me at all, to, oh my God, my account was hacked. I'm really, really sorry that this happened. I'm a fan of BTS as well, and I'm crying because of this whole entire situation. And it's just, by all that backpedaling, the changing of stories multiple times, that's not true. I'm just going to say that. I just really don't feel that it's true. And, the person got a lot of hate for it, which again, I don't condone, but on the other hand, you kind of have to expect this sort of stuff when you do things like that. So, yeah, there you go. So New York turned into a disaster, but New York, the fiasco in New York also kind of seemed to have bled into their, airport arrival at Dallas as well, because I guess they were supposed to arrive in Dallas yesterday at some point. So a bunch of fans, of course, naturally went to the airport to meet them, and they were there. They were, gathered. They had all, people in Dallas are planning on, organizing an organized, choreographed, I guess you can say, whatever, simultaneous, apology and, showing of support to the group that, they're not all the crazy ones, and they're here to enjoy, and they support them. And that's really, really nice. And it's really, really awesome. So the people at the airport, they were planning on doing this, and BTS never showed up. Basically, that's what happened. And, following through the story as much as I can gather, the people who were at the terminal, they were waiting for them. And of course, they weren't really there. There was rumors, or there was talk that they had been, that they were going to be at a different terminal. So people were like, we're going to this other terminal. They were never at that other terminal either. And there was a whole like, oh my God, which flight are they actually going to be on? Or are they supposed to be on? And nobody knows that either. And when I finally turned off Twitter and stopped actually, following updates on that, I'd heard that basically the entire thing was that BTS, they were already in Dallas, and they had spent the day at Six Flags down the road from the airport. So, basically what happened was that BTS snuck into Dallas, and they got away from the crowd, and then they went to an amusement park where nobody would know who they were, which is, one, it's funny to me, but on the other hand, it's really, really sad, because, the whole threat and the danger level that they were feeling in New York bled over into, Dallas. And, that kind of just goes to show, me, that what that shows me is that they, or the management, or somebody who is in control of, the, transporting the group and the well-being of the group, is not particularly comfortable with exposing them to uncontrolled crowds like you would get in an airport. And it's really, really, really crazy to me. And it's actually, like, as far as a K-pop group, I believe it's not really something that happens that often, because the K-pop groups are generally very, very open to meeting their fans and interacting with fans when they are at locations that they're expected to be at. So if it's an airport or a music show or something else like that, if a group of fans shows up, they're not afraid, and they're not going to hide from them. They're just going to walk right in the front door, And BTS, landed in Dallas, and they walked out and they snuck out the side door so that nobody knew that they were there. Nobody knew, where they were going. Nobody knew anything. And, that's sad that they feel that somebody obviously feels that they're in danger, or that it's not really the safest option to, just go walk out in the public with a bunch of fans around, or with a group of people around who knows what they can do. It's just really, really sad. The entire situation is, quite disheartening. And everyone's extreme reactions to this thing, to this one silly, stupid statement by Rap Monster, is what's caused this entire thing, right? So, I'd say that the one thing that we can take away from this is that, like, if you're going to react, if you're going to be mad, right? But don't be irrationally and crazy and extremely mad. If you're going to be mad, the most productive way to be mad and to actually, work to change somebody's opinion on something that you're mad about is to be thoughtful and rational about, your anger. Direct it in the right way. Direct it in productive ways. Be mature about it. Don't send death threats or threaten violence against the member. Don't do that. Anybody in general. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a K-pop idol or your best friend. There we go. Those are my thoughts and opinions on that entire thing. It's really disappointing. the entire situation. So I want to know what you think about it. So put your thoughts and stuff down in the comments below. I will definitely be reading them all. I read every single comment that I get on my videos. So that is going to be it for this episode of the K-Pop Blast. I hope that you enjoyed it. As always, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.